Hi everybody, my name is Dr. Rachel Harrod and I'm a lecturer at psychology at Swansea University. It's really lovely to be here with you today. Granted, this wasn't quite the way I was hoping to interact with you, but I hope you will have something that you learn from this and that it will be enjoyable to you. I'm very excited to be able to bring to you this psychology masterclass. As you may know, psychology has many different areas, but today I'm going to talk to you about an area of psychology which I'm particularly interested in, and students tend to find very exciting and relevant as well. So today I will introduce you to a newly established and evolving area of psychology. So today you will learn about what cyberpsychology is, the types of areas that it covers and the questions that it seeks to answer, the 5 ways that the online world is considered different to the offline world, and where you can learn more about this area should you wish to do so after today. So firstly, if we think about cyberpsychology, what actually is it? Well, we know that psychology is the study of mind and behaviour. And in essence, cyberpsychology extends this and takes a kind of multidisciplinary approach. It considers how individuals use technologies, including the internet. It's a particularly nice area of psychology because it touches on all of our lives to a greater or lesser extent. And cyberpsychology affects all of us in one way or another, as technology features frequently in our daily lives. So one of the questions I like to think about is, why is this an interesting subject? Well, it's an interesting subdiscipline within psychology, as very rarely do we as students and researchers get to learn about a topic which has impacted our lives so quickly in such a big way. So whilst I imagine many of you will have grown up in a digital world, having always had the internet as part of your daily routines and activities, the widespread availability of the internet and its widespread use in recent years is arguably one of the biggest changes we've seen in recent years. So cyberpsychology considers aspects such as how we interact with others using technology. It considers how our behaviours and psychological states can be influenced by technology. And it seeks to answer questions such as, what are the pros and cons of living our lives online? How does this affect us? And how is our psychology changing in response to this new environment? So some particularly hot topic areas include online identity, online relationships, personality types in cyberspace, internet addiction, and many more. Predominantly, cyberpsychology researchers focus on the effect of the internet and cyberspace on individuals and of groups. So, thinking back over the past week, and I know the days can merge a little bit into one at the moment, but let's have a go and think back over what's been happening in the past week. What have you used the internet for? So at this point, you may want to pause the recording for a few minutes to think about your answer. I've factored this time into the length of the session, so there is time for you to pause now if you want to and think about your answer. So on the previous slide, I asked you to think about the different ways and the different things you've used the internet for over the past week. Now, some of the things you may have thought of could include the following. So it might include buying a new laptop if yours broke, like mine did. And I actually can't tell you how inconvenient that was at this point, but that's something you could have been spending time on the internet doing. You could have spent time checking your bank balance. And again, if you were me, you probably wish you hadn't bothered. You might spend time talking to people on Zoom. And I imagine the chances are you've been doing a lot of this just lately. I've been talking to my mum on Zoom quite a lot lately, and she's getting better, although I don't think she'll mind me saying there's still quite a lot of scope for improvement on there. And I've also been playing bingo with my nephew on Zoom, and I wouldn't necessarily recommend this, but that's a different story. The other things you could do, so you could listen to music, you might have been streaming films, you might have been ordering food online, for example. Maybe online dating or meeting new friends. Also, you might have spent time doing some work, you never know. So the next logical question that comes from this is, so how would we have done these things if the internet didn't exist? So after this session, what you may want to do is ask some relatives about how they did some of these things on your list before widespread internet use became more common. As you can see from the examples I gave above, though, we can use the internet to perform a number of functions, so a number of things that we like to do. One of the ways we can use it is to interact with others, so we can use it as a communication tool. I'll talk to you now about the way that online interaction can be seen as different to face-to-face interaction. Research has led us to think that there are several distinct ways that the online world is different to the offline world. So McKenna et al. Suggests the following 4 ways, and I'll go through them all with you. The first one is the increased opportunity for anonymous interaction. So although sites do vary, there is increased potential for anonymous interactions with others than there is in face-to-face offline interactions. There's more chance to hide who we are. The second difference is increased control over the timing and pacing of interactions. So before I talk about this, I need to explain some key terms. Specifically, I need to talk about the difference between synchronous and asynchronous interaction. Synchronous interactions are the ones that occur in real time. These might be a face-to-face conversation with someone offline, or a live Zoom or Skype chat with somebody. Asynchronous interactions don't occur in real time. These might be emails, for example, that you send to people. Compared to speaking to someone face-to-face, some online communication mediums enable us more time to compose ourselves. An example might be email then. We can choose to respond to it when we want. There is more scope for us to interact asynchronously. The third difference is ease of finding similar others. So compared to offline settings, it's much easier to find people who are like us. If, for example, we have a bizarre or unusual hobby, we can easily find other people who share that hobby with us. So if you were really into stamp collecting, you might find it difficult to find other people who really appreciated what a good hobby this is. But with the internet, you can find them a lot easier, or a lot more easily, I should say. The fourth difference is the decreased importance of current physical appearance. This again varies between communication mediums, but in an email or message board contribution, for example, nobody needs to know that you haven't got dressed today, and they won't know this unless you tell them. There's also argument for a fifth factor, and this one being the increased control over content that you produce. We can use the resources we have available to put our best self forward and hone the content that we wish to display about ourselves much, much more online. If we wish to, we can present an optimized self. There's also a lot more control over the way individuals present themselves to others. Again, sites vary in the extent to which they enable these factors, but they form the primary considerations of how interactions online have the potential to differ to face-to-face offline interaction. It's notable, as I've been saying, the different internet sites we use are not a single entity. They differ in the extent to which they enable all of these things I've talked about. But these factors can help to demonstrate how the internet has changed the communication landscape, and the way we communicate and present ourselves to others is different. These considerations can help us understand the online world and the way people interact with each other when using it. What I find particularly fun about this topic area is that as the types of technology available to us constantly evolve and develop, so does the discipline. So it's possible to be at the cutting edge of human mind and behaviour and an understanding of it within this context. So whilst at one stage, a Nokia brick was the all-singing, all-dancing mobile phone, we now have mobile phones that perform a vast array of different functions. And this is just me talking to you about changes in phones over quite a long period of time. We have a vast range of technologies that we use in our lives, which we can consider through a cyber-psychological stance. If this topic does interest you and you would like to learn more, the BPS, or British Psychological Society, has its own website section dedicated to this area of psychology. It's the one at the top of the screen, and there's another one just below it. I should say it's also one of the modules that we have available for students to take in their third year if they study psychology at Swansea. If you would like to learn more about the psychology courses and related courses that we offer at Swansea University, you can visit the website on the link above. And if you have any questions about our psychology courses, you can email psychology.admissions@swansea.ac.uk. That's about all I have time for today. I hope you found this masterclass interesting and it's got you thinking. Thank you very much for listening.
Hello, I hope you're enjoying your psychology masterclass today. My name is Charlotte and I'm going to be speaking to you about a day in the life of a psychology student. So just briefly introducing, I am a third year psychology student at the University of Birmingham, and I am originally from Monmouth Comprehensive School in South Wales. So for A-levels I did maths, philosophy and ethics and psychology and the Welsh Baccalaureate. So I'm on a 4-year course and I'm on my third year, so I'm doing an integrated master's psychology degree. I am also a Seren alumni, so when I was in year 12 I attended events and workshops related to university life and how to apply, and I found them really helpful in applying for university, so I hope you get the most out of today as possible. I have about 8 hours contact hours a week, so this includes a lecture for each module, a computer practical for research methods, and then an array of different things such as seminars, workshops for all the different modules, and this can really vary each week. And now in third year I have a lot more free time to kind of concentrate on my individual work, so this is mainly focused on the dissertation that I'm currently doing. So I have about, obviously things are a little bit different at the moment with the current situation, but I do have about an hour a week for each module, and then I'll have an occasional workshop to attend to help me with coursework assessment. Also in third year you get the opportunity to do a dissertation. So this is a big piece of research work. Mine's in a small group revolving around dyslexia, and you essentially read up around the topic, think of a question and kind of run the experiment with participants. So this is really exciting because you get to actually work almost as a psychologist in the field. Obviously this is with supervision and in a group setting, but you kind of get an idea of the application of being what a researcher's role is in psychology. So there are a wide range of assessment types on the course. So mainly in first and second year, this involved essays and reports. So these reports would often involve having group work and then running an experiment and then writing up the report yourself. So this would include like an introduction, methods, results, discussion. And then also in second year I did a presentation with my group, that was an assessment type. And then this can really vary though, because in third year at the moment I'm actually doing a case study report for one of my modules, and then for the other one I'm doing a grant proposal, so to try and introduce new research into the field. But don't worry, because in first year you do get a lot of practice about the different formats. It can be a little bit difficult to adapt to, such as the referencing and the layout, but you really do have time to adapt to this by the time you're in, even in the second year, and in first year you can kind of get the hang of it after a while. So what do I enjoy most about my subject? Well, you get to study a wide range of disciplines in a psychology degree, so it really doesn't feel like you're doing just one subject. That was a concern I had jumping from A levels to university, because I thought I'd be a bit bored doing the same subject every day, but it really doesn't feel like that. For example, cognitive psychology compared to forensic psychology are completely different in their approaches, the content you learn. So I really like my degree because I just feel like I learn about so many different disciplines, and kind of get my head around psychology as a whole rather than just like a niche subject. And of course all of this relates to human behaviour, so it's really nice how everything is kind of applicable which you learn in some sort of way or another. For example, I did in first year Introduction to Learning. You can literally apply this to anything. You can refer it to your own learning, you can refer it to your nephew who's learning how to walk, all of these simple things, which makes this degree really interesting, and that's the most important part. Really good thing about studying at university is that your lecturers who teach you are actual real experts and researchers in the field. So for example, for one of my modules, I'm taught by trained clinical psychologists, so they can really use what they've learned in practical cases to teach us, which kind of gives you an insight into the career on a day-to-day basis, because this is quite hard to gain unless you've graduated. So also in general I would advise to really try and listen to your feedback. Now this can be really hard because once you kind of submit an assignment, you get your feedback in a couple of weeks, you've completely forgotten about the topic, the subject, all of that. But it's really important to get back your essay, kind of highlight through, think about the comments that your marker kind of said, and build on that for your future work. And this can really help you kind of progress to get better grades, because it is a little bit harder at university to kind of build up. Also, I would say don't be scared to talk to the lecturers. So all your lecturers each week will have office hours. So this is kind of a time where you can go to the office, ask any questions you might have, but this can be really daunting because in my lectures in first and second year, for example, there was about over 200 students. So this is really different to A levels where you have kind of around 30 per teacher. So I would recommend really trying to make the most of these office hours. They are there for a reason. They want you to come and ask questions. It just can be a little bit daunting when you're at university. Also, some more general tips. To-do lists are so important. I literally, when I do a working day, I always write down things I'm going to do for the day, and then that just gives me a small sense of achievement, kind of ticking one off. And also in general, if you're interested in doing psychology, it's really hard to get work experience directly in the field because everything's usually confidential. But what you can do is gain volunteering experience. So with working with vulnerable members of the community, it can literally cover a wide range of different domains. It doesn't have to be directly related. Even working, say, in a school with children, that kind of gives you some work experience. I think when I was in sixth form, I worked with old people in my local museum. So what can a psychology degree lead to? Essentially, anything. You learn about human behaviour, dynamics, people's thinking, and this can literally be applied in any role. So, for example, in a business, ensuring that workers are working at the optimal level. So, this is like talent management. You can kind of specialise in mental health, caring. You can go into sport and exercise psychology, neuroscience, looking at like brain scans, for example, researchers, trying to kind of discover, like, say, for example, new interventions. And then there are the three kind of main domains, which are clinical, forensic, and educational. So you need a PhD essentially to become a psychologist in one of these roles. So you can become an educational psychologist, for example, who works in schools, diagnosing, for example, ADHD, dyslexia. But essentially, this degree kind of opens up your doors because you can do anything, essentially, and really apply your learning that you've learned at your degree to a role. I hope you enjoyed this day in the life, and I hope I answered all your questions.
Gobeithio chi fwynhau. I do hope you enjoyed your first masterclass full of interesting ideas. Egwyl fach nawr, let's have a short 5-minute break from the screen. Stretch your legs, take a comfort break, ac yna dod nôl i'r lobby. Come back to the lobby for your next masterclass. A fydd yn dechrau, which will start at 2:55.